So with social justice redrawing borders, since I have some experience, I've decided to make a few vids on the topic. When I was a child, I was inducted into a cult-like ultra-conservative religious environment, on which I've already made a few vids, including such gems as the importance of terror upon unbelievers, why it was okay to fail girls out of health classes since they weren't going to do anything with an education, and why I was a bad Christian for finding maiming and torturing cats distasteful. Yet when I escaped and went to college, I found myself in an ultra-liberal environment surrounded by social justice advocates, and I found these two environments eerily similar, so perhaps sharing my experiences can be helpful. Let's talk about political correctness and factual correctness. In gender studies courses and the like, information is often given a politically correct spin, and the people that take these courses are emerging with politically correct takes on the data. Many going for a women's history degree or similar often come from a relatively privileged background. With little financial pressure to pick a degree with more earning power, this can cause a lack of personal finance skills. So a lot of people identifying as social justice advocates and desiring to fight privilege are themselves very privileged and may not realize it. With no financial pressure on degree selection, and correspondingly less pressure to develop financial skills on their own during adolescence, many are robbed of the skills to understand their own situation due to having lived with no precedent for those skills to develop. So they may hold an understanding of money management that would otherwise be considered childlike. This robs people of the ability to make reasonable financial decisions or develop an informed opinion on subjects that are influenced by logistics, economics, or finance, which is a lot. And they learn in their courses several rules of thumb that can make figuring out something's wrong much harder. When I had to take my women's studies and cultural anthropology courses, subjects like economics or logistics were downplayed to the point of being considered insignificant. This is one of the reasons some have unrealistic expectations about a nation's ability to take in population influx. Some of these people have been taught logistics is a subject for factory administrators and other specialists, and first world nations simply have the resources. It's implied, sometimes bluntly stated, that people raising concerns about economic viability, etc., are, at best, paranoid about trivial details regarding the management of the new population and are being unreasonably obsessive over a minor concern for a few administrative figures. There's plenty of resources to go around, it just takes a couple people to do the paperwork, and it's really no big deal. At worst, it's viewed as looking for an excuse not to help due to racism. For example, I had to take an English course in which I was accused of racism because I stated it wasn't feasible to print all languages on signs because some languages didn't have written versions. The class believed that because Switzerland had 4 languages, that meant they successfully printed those languages on all signs, in all regions, and could accommodate all languages if needed. And assuming some languages didn't have written versions was incorrectly assuming another culture was inferior. So it went against cultural relativism, and therefore, it was not true that some languages didn't have written versions, and I was racist for wrongly assuming certain cultures wouldn't have a written version. If you have even a fairly basic understanding of languages, you'll know this is not true, but many of these people attending school for a social studies degree don't have the necessary skills, and the schools aren't providing them given the state of current education. When I was a child and taught a one true version of Christianity narrative, I learned rules of thumb about interpreting information from the world around me. For example, I was taught the agreed-upon scientific method was comparing information to the Bible, because the Bible was the most accurate scientific document, and many similar rules to that. But under the application of these rules of thumb, the information looks different. The perspective that evolution is just a theory sounds more reasonable under the precedent that the scientific method is literally just looking at Bible verses, and over 99% of scientists are young Earth creationist Christians who don't believe evolutionism, and follow the scientific method of looking up Bible verses to test their information. When I took the politically correct courses, I noticed similarities between the one true version of Christianity narrative and the politically correct narrative, and many rules of thumb about interpreting information were being recycled. And these rules of thumb control how people educated at these facilities view common arguments. Often they will view them as wrongfully believed by a fringe minority or outright lies. A good example showed up on one of my recent videos. Much of the video talks about the education people are getting and the conditions these colleges are operating in. It showcases earning power graphs and studies done to illustrate my overall point that people receiving higher education these days, mainly millennials, are being robbed of certain skills, particularly those related to money, which I observed while living among the feminists. The video was mostly well received. However, there were 2 commenters that were highly critical, both of which lie about the video's content by claiming no evidence is presented in the video and that it offers blind discrimination. But those comments are not meant to argue with me or people that watched the video or found the video agreeable. The comments are meant for the spectator. You can't argue the video contains no evidence to someone that knows studies are showcased in it, but someone viewing a Reddit thread who goes to the comments to see what people think before watching it, or clicks on a YouTube video and goes to the comments first, they can be told the video doesn't contain any sources or data. They know it's not responsible to refuse watching a video then make a declaration on whether or not sources or evidence are presented, but what are a few small distortions or misframings here or there if it helps communicate the greater truth of social justice? And under the rule of thumb that these educations are functioning fine and no one's been cheated out of finance skills, obviously I'm lying when I mention reduced earning power. Obviously, the video doesn't show any reduced earning power charts, so it's not worth the time to verify before retellitizing to others what the contents are. That's the effect the rules of thumb have on people. The rule of thumb of political correctness comes at the cost of factual correctness, and it provides a moral entitlement to cut corners. It's a politically correct rule of thumb to believe cultural relativism, and since cultures are equal and all ways of life have merit, and none are truly better than another, obviously, they all have written languages, and if someone states certain languages don't have written versions, well, obviously he's racist. There's no need to look up if it's true or not. We already know it can't be. No culture is better than another, so because no culture is better than another, they have similar levels of technology, medicine, construction, forms of communication, etc. And because we know the truth of social justice, investigations to see if it's wrong are, of course, completely unwarranted. So is it really a lie to tell people the contents of a video without watching it, when you know for a fact, in your heart of hearts, that you can't have been cheated, that the one true, politically correct narrative can't be undermined by a few racists and their charts and maths? That is the principal flaw of political correctness. The conclusion is at the beginning. Information is then made to fit the box, which comes at the cost of accuracy. But people are taught that it doesn't, which is why they come up with ideas that otherwise seem detached from reality. They've been cheated out of the needed skills. But there is hope for them yet, with the magic of logistics. Thank you for watching. I hope the video proves helpful, and I'll see you next time.